Allocating your precious labor as efficiently as possible has never been more important. I'm Mark Riske, and today I'm going to discuss a metric called staff-to-traffic ratio and how you can use it to understand how effectively you're allocating labor across a group of stores. Without this metric, it's virtually impossible to have staff ready to serve customers. Now, for most retailers, labor is doled out based on sales. More sales, more labor. But how do you know if the labor you're applying is the right amount in one store compared to another? As it turns out, this simple metric can actually show you. Let's look at an example. Here are the daily sales in labor for 3 stores of the same chain. Not surprising, the more sales the stores make, the more labor the store gets. Now, it just makes sense, and it's consistent with the way that most retailers look at their business. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is you can't actually tell if you're allocating labor efficiently or not from this data. Let's look at the staff-to-traffic ratios to see if we can find a clue. But before we do that, let's first look at the store traffic and conversion results for each of these 3 stores. As you can see, store number 1 has a lot less traffic and a significantly higher conversion rate than the other stores. Number 2 is right in the middle, and store number 3 gets a lot more store traffic and also has a much lower conversion rate. This is our first clue that there may be a labor allocation problem. Now remember, low conversion means that sales opportunities are being missed. Is it possible that store number 3's low conversion rate is labor related? That's a good question. Now let's look at the staff-to-traffic ratios. They're easy to calculate. You simply divide the store traffic count by the number of labor hours. So in our example, store number 1 received 500 store visits and had 50 labor hours. So 500 divided by 50 equals 10. Another way to interpret this is to say that for every 1 labor hour, this store has to serve 10 shopper visits. So now let's compare the staff-to-traffic ratios and conversion rates for all 3 stores. As it turns out, store number 1 and store number 3 have the exact same staff-to-traffic ratio. So despite the fact that store number 3 had a lot more traffic, it also had a lot more labor. So in relative terms, it was exactly the same as it was for store number 1. But as you can see, the conversion rates in store number 3 were seriously lower. So something must be going on there. But what we know now is that it was likely not a labor allocation issue because this store was allocated a similar amount of labor as store number 1. Store number 2 has a lower staff-to-traffic ratio, which means that it has more labor relative to its traffic, the traffic it's receiving. It's getting a little too much labor, perhaps, relative to these other stores. What staff-to-traffic ratio does is it normalizes the labor allocations so that you can compare labor to traffic in a way that makes the results comparable. Regardless of how many stores you operate, it's worth comparing your staff-to-traffic ratios and overlaying your conversion rates on top. If you want to make sure you're allocating your precious labor resources as effectively as you can, staff-to-traffic ratios can help you do that.